Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LiveSTEAM program, where we explore the world around us and see how things work together. My name is Nadia, and I will be your host for today's virtual field trip, Clearing the Air, Tracking Greenhouse Gases from Space. We're joined today by classes from Thunder Bay, Unionville, Montreal, Grand Prairie, Owen Sound, Oakville, Kingston, Echo Bay, Milton, and many more, as well as many students from Ontario's Specialist High Skills Major program. In just a few minutes, we'll be visiting the places where greenhouse gases come from, where they're tracked, and where satellites are built. Let's get started with the first question. What are the three most common gases in the atmosphere? Is it A, nitrogen, oxygen, argon, B, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, C, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and methane? What went into my lungs? And I wonder what came out. Is it important? I see that you guys have answered nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. However, the answer is nitrogen, oxygen, and argon. Our atmosphere is composed of 98% nitrogen, 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% argon. Carbon, believe it or not, is only 0.5% of the atmosphere. So a small change may have a large effect. And now to a second question. How much have greenhouse gas carbon dioxide increased since the first industrial revolution back in 1750? I wonder, does everything that we do cause greenhouse gases, even eating? What energy is contained in this food? And when did we start packaging our food? And the grains and the raisins here, where were they cultivated? Where do they come from? And how much work took to get this bag of cereals to me, to my breakfast table? All right, so you answered 50%. That is correct. There's been a 50% increase in carbon dioxide in our atmosphere since 1750. So how are we impacting the climate? We're going now to visit Woodsview Dairy Farm, where we'll meet the mammals that are producing our milk. And we'll see how they're managing methane too. We'll be in the countryside, so the connection might be spotty at times. Are you ready? All right, let's go. Hello, Dennis and Claire. Wow.
Hi.
Hi, where are we?
Welcome. We're at Woodsview Farm, and this is my family farm. We've had this in my family since 1798 on the 6th generation dairy farmer here. We have a robotic milking farm, which the cows milk on their own 24 hours a day. And in this barn, it's fully automated. Cleaning systems are robotic. There's brushes for brushing the cows. There's a cow in the robot milking right now.
So, oh wow, so you're robots. How many? But I don't really see them.
There's one with the cow in there milking now. She just finished up. She's leaving the robot. She just gave her milk. We grow all the crops here for the cows, to feed the cows and the heifers. And here is the feed that we feed the cows, which is a mixture of corn silage, haylage, a complete meal that's fabricated at the plant locally, and all the minerals and byproducts they need to stay healthy, and a little bit of soybean straw that is mixed in to give them fiber for the cows to stay healthy. So the diet is taken care of by an agronome, a feed specialist. He makes the diet for us, tells us what to feed cows. And it's very important that we have a nice stable diet for the cows to give them a good production, but also stay healthy, to have a long life as long as we can keep them here. The cows here at this farm average 40 liters a day of 48 liters a day of milk at around a 4% fat test. And right now, the robot that is cleaning up the manure on the floor, because what goes in the cows must come out.
Right. And so this is like a Roomba. It's just clearing the manure away on its own?
Yes.
Automatically?
Yes. It goes around 24 hours a day cleaning up the manure from the cows, because these cows are eating about, I think it's about roughly 50 kilos of feed altogether. Plus, they will drink about 120 to 150 liters of water a day.
120 liters. Wow. And so what's this? I also see another red thing here at the with next to the feed. What is that?
Yeah, this robot is constantly pushing up feed every hour, 24 hours a day. I just stopped it so you would able to see how it works. But it's very important for us to have this machine because it'll push the feed up so it always stays fresh for the cows. They can reach it easier, and it keeps a better diet for them. At our farm, an average cow is producing about 40 liters of milk a day.
Okay. And
that's what we average.
Fantastic.
Which would be about 120 glasses of milk if you were drinking it in glasses. So it's a lot of milk per cow.
That's it. Average. From one cow, you're feeding many families with that one cow.
Yes. What we're doing is trying to make a higher production by having a more efficient cow. So we can produce more milk with less cows. So they take less feed because we're having less cows to feed. Less methane gases is being produced by these cows because we are keeping less cows than what we used to have to make that same volume of milk.
I'm just wondering, the Roomba, once it's full, the robot that is collecting the manure, when it's full, where does it go? What does it do? Do you have to empty it out?
It's going to dump into a pit, and then every 2 days we will pump it underground into a big swimming pool, which is a concrete pit that stores the manure, and then we will spread that on the fields for the crops to grow.
Can we go and see how a cow gets milk? Is there a cow being milked now?
Yes.
And so
not right at this moment. They're a lot lying down, as you can see. A lot of them are laying down. They're very content, and you can see this one here and another one in front of her. They're chewing their cud. So that means they're digesting their food that they were eating before.
Right.
They're bringing it out and digesting it. And that's what you want to see is a cow very relaxed, chewing her cud. So she's a happy cow. She's laying on a waterbed. So when she drops down, all the cows have water beds to lay down on. So when they drop down, it's a cushion for them.
Can we see that? We don't believe you.
Okay. So when I put my foot down, there's water moving in that mattress. And then there's another part of the mattress in the front, which is a different part of the mattress. So when they come down, their knees come down first. And so they put their knees on that, and then they will drop down their back end after. And so it's a very cushion feeling for them.
Can we go on? I know there's no cow there, but can we see the robot that milks the cow?
Yeah, we can go over there. I'll go and see if I can get a cow to milk. I just got to find the one that's got quite a bit of milk in her. But this right here in front, this is the robot that's going to milk the cow.
All right.
And I got a cow here I'll bring over, and we can see how it's all going to work when she should get milk.
But normally she would just walk in. This is why how many robots in total do you have?
We have two milking robots at the farm. I'll see if I can get this cow to milk. We have 2 milking robots at the farm. There's one in this barn, and then we have another barn.
There she goes.
Is right hooked on beside, and it milks cows too. See, she went in, and she doesn't have enough milk to be milked. So we might not actually see a cow milked.
Okay, that's all right. So the robot knew that the cow didn't have enough milk?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, here, I will make a cow milk for you guys. I have all the stuff I can do with my phone. So I'm going to make this nice little red and white cow. Go over to the robot, and we will make her milk.
So that milk gets stored. It gets pumped here, and then it gets sent to be stored elsewhere?
Yes, it's going to be, we stored in a tank up in the milk house. And it's stored there, kept cool around 2 to 3 degrees. And then the milk truck's going to pick it up every 2 days. And then he's going to drive from here to the processing plant. Our milk will be gone from our tank at 7:30 in the morning. And by afternoon, it's being processed for either cheese, yogurt, or could be even fluid milk.
Fantastic.
To be delivered to your shelves in the grocery store.
So what are we seeing here? What are these brushes?
Right now, these brushes are cleaning her teats. so they're disinfected and stay clean. So the machine does each teat, I think it's like 3 seconds. It's going to disinfect the brush and come back for a second time and redo it.
Oh, so we're only seeing 2. Is it possible to see all the 4? I guess there's a total of 4.
Yes, there's 4 there.
And so these cows are, what we've seen is they gladly walk in. They seem very content, very happy. Is that important for you?
Yes, yes. It's all about the comfort of the cows. But of course, she's getting a little bit of what I would say sugar, candy while she eats right there. It's like going to a buffet restaurant as a kid. You probably would rather eat all the fun stuff before you eat the vegetables. Well, that's the same here.
So what's happening
salad
here?
Over there, and now she's eating her candy at the robot.
Oh, what was that red line that we're
connected.
seeing? What's that red line that we're seeing? The red lines that we're seeing?
That is the laser. That's the laser finding her teat placement. So there's a laser in that arm, and there's a 3D camera above her back, and that tells the robot arm where to go on the cow to hook up.
So it's now actually pumping. The cow is being milked.
Yeah, she's actually being milked. The first few bit of milk is going to go into a separate container to be go in the drain, because we don't want the first couple of drops of milk, just in case there might be a little bit of dirt.
Right.
And then after that, it all goes into a jar. And when she's done milking, it will wait, tells how much milk she gave, the quality of the milk, if there was any infection in her quarters or anything, and how much fat that she had, protein.
Wow. Incredible.
Cows themselves, they decide when they want to milk. They usually average about 3.5 milkings a day here. And they can walk in the stall, lay down. They go and walk to get their water. They go and walk to get their feed. They go and walk to get their milking. They do it themselves. Now, if someone's not feeling good, then we have to go and say, okay, what is wrong with you? We'll figure it out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dennis Sinclair.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for showing us how all these robots are helping you to create all the milk that we use in our homes. Now it turns out that one of the best ways to understand the greenhouse gases in our atmosphere is to escape it completely. This is a map of all the satellites orbiting the Earth right now. Each of these tiny flecks is a satellite. We're now going to GHGSat in Montreal, where they're using satellites to track the sources and concentrations of methane in our atmosphere. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, Marianne.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So welcome to GHGSat. So my name is Marianne. I'm a physicist, and I'm actually a specialist in satellite imagery here. So at GHGSat, we're really passionate about the environment, and we actually use special technologies to fight climate change. So what we do is actually we have several satellites in orbit around the Earth, and we use those satellites to monitor greenhouse gas emission from anywhere around the world, so especially methane emission. So this is the real size of one of our satellites. Our satellites are very small.
That is not what we expected.
No, exactly. It's very small. I know, but it's very quicker for us to construct, to develop, and it's also a bit cheaper than big satellites. So there's a lot of advantage to have this kind of nano satellite. So now that you can see the satellite, I can show you some part and how it works a bit. So we have here on the side some solar panel. So we have that to make sure that we always have power in the satellite. We need something to power all the time our satellite, because we have instrument, antenna that needs to work. You can see here some antennas. So this is to communicate with our satellite. We need to send a command to the satellite to tell the satellite what we want to observe, or after also we want to download the data that the satellite will have taken. And we also have a GPS. So this is to track where a satellite is in space. And the more important thing is here at the front, we have here kind of a hole where we actually have the light that will come through that. And our instrument inside will actually analyze the light. So how it works is actually that we analyze the light from the sun that is reflected on the ground, then it goes through the atmosphere and then in our instrument. So I mentioned quickly that we use spectroscopy. So when we have a gas like methane in the atmosphere, it has a specific signature in some wavelength of light. So for methane, it's in the infrared. So our instrument is optimized to really analyze those wavelengths of light that are affected by methane. So what it means is that our instrument inside this satellite can actually create maps of methane anywhere around the world at very high spatial resolution. So we get about 25 meters per pixel.
There's methane is in the atmosphere, and then it changes light somehow, and that's what you guys are detecting?
Yeah, exactly. Every gas has a specific signature when the light goes through that gas. So it's called that absorption spectral line. So it's a bit when you have a rainbow from the light is decomposed in several colors. So this is what we do, and some color are affected by the methane, so we can look at those spectral lines and really know how much methane there is in a specific area.
Perfect. And so what do you do with all this information?
I'll let you go with Kelly for a moment, and she'll show you some of her data.
Hi, Nadia. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly. I'm an operations technician, and I work with Marianne on the operations team. However, I'm not a physicist. My background is actually in geography. And I'm just going to give a little overview of the data we're looking at and the methane emissions that we're analyzing. So here is a tool we have that is called Pulse, and it gives us a sort of big picture overview of the amount of methane in the atmosphere and across the globe, so different parts of the world. You can see here the legend indicates that the more we go towards this red orangey color, the higher the concentration of methane, so the more emissions we have in a certain area. And then on the contrary, we have the more blue violet tones indicate a lower concentration of methane in the atmosphere, so there's just less of it. And using this tool, we're able to see trends over time and across different seasons. So there's different things that would affect the concentration in different parts of the world. We're able to identify hotspots, so areas, for example, in the Middle East and in Turkmenistan, in China. As you can see here, are more red, which indicates a lot of methane, which in many cases can be attributed to more industrial activity. A lot of it in these areas in particular would be related to oil activity, oil extraction, refining, also landfills, and different kinds of pollution. So this is a...
So quick question, Kelly. Is this all the information from your 3 satellites at the moment?
So actually, no, this is a tool we use that compiles other information from third-party satellites and kind of different sources that we compile together. And we use this to determine what we do with our satellites afterwards. So this gives us an idea of the big picture trends. And then we can see afterwards, with our own satellites, we can go in and have a higher resolution image. So basically, using this, we're not able to tell exactly where an emission comes from. If there's a bit of a red area, so the resolution isn't good enough for us to see what it's coming from. And that's exactly what we use our satellites for. So I think we're going to take a look at some of the individual emissions that we're able to identify using our own satellites.
Excellent. The students want to know how you're using your satellites. So excellent.
Marianne is going to walk us through some of our examples.
All right, Marianne, we're ready.
So we'll now zoom in on some example of what we do with our satellite. So as I mentioned, we can really see emission at high resolution. So with our satellite, we can really zoom in and see from where an emission comes from in a facility, from oil and gas, from a a landfill. So we have different sources. So here, I think we are in Turkmenistan. There's a lot of oil and gas facilities there, or pipeline. So here we see 3 individual emissions from different part of that oil and gas. So maybe one from, sometimes it's from leaks from pipeline, this kind of thing. So there's really a lot of facility. In Turkmenistan, we can see several emissions like that per day. So there's really a lot of activities there. We can go see maybe Kazakhstan. We have there, what you see here is an open mine. So it's a very big mine. And the emission that we see here, again, what you see when it's red, it's because the methane concentration is very high, and when it's blue, it's low. So what we can see here is there's a wall of that mine that actually people are working on. So it emits a lot of methane. So as I mentioned, having this high resolution really allows us to pinpoint where the methane comes from. So it allows us after to act and what to do if we want to fix it. But also we can quantify the quantity of methane that we see here. So here, we know that this emission is about 20 to 30 tons of methane per hour of emission. So it's a lot of methane. So just to give you an idea, it's about between 100 to 200 cars per year in emission. So it's a lot. So maybe we can go in Australia. Yeah, so here it's in Australia. We have, here it's an underground mine. So a lot of coal mine emits a lot of methane, and they have to kind of evacuate all the gas that is stuck underground. So we see kind of this vent that emits a lot of emission when there's underground coal mines. I think Kelly has some great demo about how our satellite orbits around the Earth.
It's not quite live. This is where they're going to be at this time. So tomorrow, this is kind of a forecast that's running. So we check on this a day in advance to decide where we're going to schedule the satellites to go, because we have some control over where exactly they're going to go along these orbits. So yeah, you can see their orbits are quite in line right now. And we use this tool to decide where we're going to take images based on the weather and whether it's dark or not. As you can see right at this time, they'll be passing through the night, so we won't be able to take any images, or they'll come through totally dark and we won't have measurements. So we use this to kind of see where we're at and where we can take images over the next few days.
Are satellites contributing to climate change?
Yeah, I mean, so in order to reduce emissions, you have to be able to quantify them and see where they're coming from. So our part is identifying areas where we can, reduce emissions and identify leaks and facilities that are really causing significant damage to the atmosphere environmentally. So in identifying that, we're able to then act upon it and cut some of these emissions. Which is all one small role in the big part of acting to, climate action.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kelly and Marianne, for showing us your world of out in space and detecting methane, finding their sources, and hopefully stopping them. So we've seen an example of the places where greenhouse gases like CO2 and methane are coming from, and how people track changes to these emissions from space. Well, now, how exactly do these satellites see gas? How do we know that these instruments are accurate from thousands of meters away? And how do we trust this data? Now we're going to Quebec City to visit ABB, an optics and sensor company, where they build and test the instruments that we launch into space. Are you ready to ask some more questions? Let's go. Hello, James.
Hello. All right,
Hello.
So hello everyone. Welcome to Quebec City. Welcome in the clean rooms. I'm just going to introduce myself very quickly. My name is James Veilleux. I'm a space systems engineer. I've been here working for more than 15 years in making satellites that are actually optical instruments that are on board satellites that measure greenhouse gases and that measure gases in the atmosphere. I studied electrical engineering, so that's my background. And well, you see, space is my passion. So,
And why are you dressed this way?
All right. So you see, I'm in a clean room. All right. So this is the name says it all. So in a clean room, it means that everything around you, and especially the air, is clean. All right. So I'll just show you a little bit better the way that I'm dressed. You see, in a clean room, we're dressed in a special way so that you have a smock, which prevents you from zapping the electronics around you. And you also wear a mask, a hair cap, and basically you even see we even cover our shoes, because in a clean room, everything needs to be clean so that our special optics that are going to go in space, well, of course, are going to stay very, very clean and are not going to have any defects. So see, we're just basically entering the clean room here at ABB. You see that we have a lot of smaller rooms where we have our staff here that are working on performing what we call integrations. So that means assembling all the parts that are used in an optical instrument, and later on testing them. So see, I'm entering one of the clean rooms where we are performing integration and test for the GHGSat optical instruments. All right. So as Marianne has showed, well, basically GHGSat measures greenhouse gases through the use of an optical instrument. And if you remember the term that Marianne used, she used spectroscopy. So it basically means that you separate the light that's coming from the Earth, and basically we just measure what we can see in the infrared, because that's where in the infrared we can measure what level of methane we have.
So
and how that is done. Yes,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So just don't keep. Let's have a look at what you're working on.
Absolutely. So what you see there, it is going to fly in a future version of a GHGSat optical instrument. So you see, this is the critical part. That's called, we call that the interferometer. That's going to separate the light into the right areas that can be then actually captured with a camera. This is not a GHGSat camera, but later on, the light, that kind of infrared camera there is going to be able to measure the level of greenhouse gases that there are. So you see in that clean room here, basically it's not that different from what you actually do in a physics lab or in a chemistry lab, because basically we follow very detailed instructions, and we just apply that, but we use that to test an optical instrument. So you see that what you see here basically is that these are actually test instructions for a GHGSat component. So we have a binder where engineers and technicians follow instructions.
So how reliable are the different sensors that you are working with?
All right. So see, usually we have, it is by contract, we have to provide a reliable instrument. So through a lot of testing and characterization, well, we know that we actually prove that what we deliver can last for 2 years or 5 years or 10 years in the case of very important space missions, such as, for example, the James Webb Space Telescope. So you see everything here is not left to let's say improvisation. You see everything here follows a test protocol that's based on very specific steps to make sure that the instrument is going to work well. We're going to go and see in another clean room. You see, you even get some cool signs like this. So danger laser. All right. So what you're going to see there, I'm going to move to another clean room where you're going to see the project that I have been working on for the last 3 years, because you have to know, students, that when you work on a space project, this is something that doesn't happen overnight. This is something that can take many years. For example, this is the last project that I worked on. It is these are the electronics for the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope camera. So this is the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope is a space telescope that's a follow-on to Hubble, and that's going to be launched after the James Webb Space Telescope. And the project
in what year? In what year?
It's going to be launched around 2025. So
okay.
Some of you will be adults by then, and some of you will probably be in university, and you may have a chance to process the data coming out from it. You see,
perfect. Let's see it.
Really,
yes,
absolutely. So what you see here is the camera electronics, because you see on that space telescope is going to be used to capture the light from exoplanets. So these are planets that are orbiting around.
What's an exoplanet?
Yeah, so these are planets that are orbiting other solar systems. So let's say you look at the star at night. Well, there's perhaps a solar system around that star. And basically you use an instrument such as the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, and you basically study the planets that you may find around these distant stars. So you see, in such a camera, that's a very, very sensitive camera. So you have the sensitive part here. So that's the part that's on the back of your iPhone. This is the sensitive part of the camera. And associated with that here are the electronics, because you see that these are more complicated electronics than you have, let's say, on your regular iPhone camera. You have a computer in itself here, large memories, and a very special circuit that we use to collect the small amounts of lights that's come from an exoplanet. Because imagine for a faraway exoplanet, that doesn't put a lot of light on the sensor, so it needs to be extremely sensitive.
Amazing. So this is going to be, it's amazing. And so these are components. Are you using components that we can buy at the store? You've mentioned little camera bits, little.
Yes.
Or are you creating them yourselves? These chips that we're seeing, these boards.
So the way that what we do is when you design flight electronics, you do not you purchase the components, the individual components from companies that make space electronics. So these are very, very reliable electronics, very, very rugged electronics. And as my task as a designer, and when we design satellites like GHGSat, for example, is that we put all of these parts together and we design the electronic circuits, and we design the enclosures, and we perform the testing of that overall system. You see, for example, that's an example of an image that was taken with that particular camera. So we kind of had the camera follow an eye exam test. We wanted to make sure if we could get all of the right contrast, and we have the right resolution with the camera. Basically, the government is sometimes your customer. So you see, for that project there, I was talking to people at JPL every day. So my customer was JPL, which is the Jet Propulsion Lab in Los Angeles, which also created the Mars Perseverance rover. So basically, we have permission because they are our customers. They buy the electronics from us. So we have other rooms for that, where we subject the electronics and all the cameras to the rigors of space, because space is not an easy environment for your electronics and for your optics. First of all, you have to survive the ride on board a rocket. So you have to basically tolerate something like 10 Gs for the duration of 1 or 2 minutes. So once you survive the ride on a rocket, then you get to space. And in space, basically, you know that there's no air. That's why an astronaut is going to wear a spacesuit. And in space, sometimes you get exposed to the sun, it gets really, really warm. And sometimes you don't get exposed to the sun, and then it becomes really cold. So how we simulate that is we use a huge vacuum chamber, such as this one there, and we put our instrument in that vacuum chamber. And then we could close the door, and then we remove all the air that we can. So once we basically remove all the air, we're in the vacuum just like if we were in space. And you see, we have all these circulating wires around the chamber that we use to change the temperature. So sometimes we might test the unit at minus 100 degrees. Sometimes we might test it back at plus 75 degrees to make sure that the optics are not going to twist and that the electronics are going to keep working, even when it's cold or even when it's warm.
And are there satellites that have failed that you've decided to bring back?
Not in my experience per se. The satellites do fail because nothing is perfect. But you see, usually the success rate of a satellite is close to 99%. So what you hear about is maybe the 1% that didn't make it. But that does happen. They do happen to fail right after launch. Sometimes they happen to fail with a shorter duration than expected. It might be 1 year when you expected the satellite to last for 5 years, for example.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, James, for answering all the students' questions and for showing us a component, a camera that is going to be in a telescope launched in a few years. And we will remember that we saw that today. We started today's live stream by asking, how are we impacting the climate? We visited the place where our milk comes from and what farmers are doing to reduce methane emissions. We looked at our atmosphere from orbit and saw where greenhouse gases like methane are coming from. And we explored how engineers build and test the instruments we launch into space to tell us what's happening on our planet. This is the system of the greenhouse we call Earth. This is the way that the atmosphere and the biosphere interact with one another. It's the way that energy is created and consumed by single-celled organisms, right up to people, blue whales, and redwood trees. This is the system that sustains all life on Earth. And when we change the system, we change the balance of life itself. The system is driven by people at all levels. It's made up of engineers, farmers, computer scientists, writers, oil workers, drivers, and every one of you. We were all dependent on this vast system of carbon consumption, and we're all contributing to it just by eating, heating our homes, traveling across town, and breathing. We'd like to give a very big thank you to everyone we visited today: Dennis and Claire at Woodsview Farm, Marianne and Kelly at GHGSat, and James at ABB. Thank you so much for letting us explore your world today. And a special thank you to the Canadian Space Agency and to Scale AI for sponsoring today's event. And we'd like to thank all of you, teachers and students, for joining us on this field trip and sharing your curiosity and your questions with us. See you next time.